So if I bring these two,
a bit so I can rewatch it.
draw angle, right?
There you go, dear. Now I can see your hands. Okay.
Yeah, so if I bring these two in at the same time, but I've only got one up, so I'm just going to... Yeah, so that's custom. You've seen that so many times.
That's what they're doing where I'm like, oh.
And it's so easy. You will have nailed this by the end of the day, I promise you.
Yeah.
This is like, honestly, it's one of those things that once you know the thing, it's actually really easy. So the first few tricks are when you're doing this. So if you imagine you've got 4 beats, yeah? 1, 2, 3, 4. We're going to bring it up on the 2 and the 4.
2 and 4.
So if you imagine it's
Yeah.
so we want to like that one, yeah? So when we do this, what I always advise is never hold the fader because it slows you down. You're going to spring between your fingers. So you're using your fingers as springs, and you'll notice as well that I'm kind of using my wrist. Use this finger, the second one, yeah? Because weirdly, if you actually do it, you'll find that's your strongest finger. You will find turntablists and other people, what they do is they actually practice, go through their fingers like that to train their fingers.
Wow, that's cool.
And you'll also find that your arm here will start to hurt off. It's like going like bouldering, rock climbing, that sort of thing, and then you come out and you're like, oh, I've got my arm. So what we're going to do is I'll get them playing together, and I just want you to try it on the 2 and the 4. So the other thing is, don't sort of be nice about this. Is why I was saying don't be nice. It's sharp. We want it to catch the click. Yeah. So. Yeah. Just think if you listen to this. And it's on the claps.
Oh, it's the claps.
Yeah. So
you know I'm not hitting this bit, is that okay?
Yeah.
I've already got him on camera.
Bane of my life, mate.
I just like to record myself all the time, like Kanye.
Oh gosh, don't.
You sound like my friends.
Right. That's it. So 2 and 4 on this one. Right, that's 1. Right. Right, that's the 1 still. Right. I've got an easy solution for you. Tap down on the beat for me. Here. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
You tap down first, then your brain will go, okay, that's the down. Okay, so tap down on the beat. That's it. Right, that's 1. Yeah. Don't tap on the one there. Actually, tap on the top of the fader. Like that. So that's why I'm saying use it. You spring between the 2.
1, 2, 3. Yeah.
That's much easier, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a tap. With my brain over here.
Alright. Okay, so do that. No, it's right. Complete sense.
Yeah.
And yeah, the guys who were saying doing this is what they're doing.
Why on the 2 and the 4 again? Just
Because it's the most obvious thing to bring in. There's usually a mid-range snare there. Or actually, you'll notice in this one there's a vocal. So if I...
the drum and bass, you reckon?
And that was like that, you hear that little bit of vocal come through. So that's kind of what you're looking for here, is the idea that it introduces the track without introducing the track, really, essentially. The next thing we can do is we can actually do the straight cuts. And this is what you can also do on the crossfader here.
Yeah, I have played around with that a little bit. Like when I was double dropping these two tracks down really good together, I'll go between the two using that, but I've never done it using these.
So it's exactly the same, but it's just a straight swap up and down, like that. Now, one thing to be careful of is when we did the snare, we obviously don't want the bass in. But when we do the straight swap, you do, because otherwise you're going to go,
you swap and it's like completely empty sound.
Yeah, and that's it. So if we... I like, as long as it's on a beat. So half the time there, I was doing on like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4.
So you're not doing it on the one. This is
that is on the one. So I can do it on the string 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. But sometimes I'm doing it on the 3. But what I'm trying to say is, if I played that on like 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1.
Oh, like a little.
Yeah, it's like any division, as long as the two songs sound kind of sort of the same vibe.
Yeah, I think that's what must. So the other thing we did was you were saying the call and answer, so that must be similar to what you're saying.
Yeah, it really, really is. I mean, that generally works. The way I always explain sort of call and response is if you think of like an old 1980s ballad and think of like the male and female vocalist, that's essentially like the classic love song line.
Yeah.
Like, that's kind of what we're doing here.
Yeah.
But just trying to make it so that we've got those two things. If you can get two songs where you've got the two vocals calling out each other, that's incredible. And especially if we can do things like setting the loops so that you'll just have the vocal just to cut in. So with this one, we've got it lined up on the drop. Yeah? I could. So I want that. So if I. Yeah, that weird little vocal.
Yeah. A lot of my songs have a lot of vocals.
Yes.
And so then sometimes I won't time crop in and two people will be talking over each other.
Right. So one thing I would say, you're already setting cue points in your tracks. So set yourself markers of where they shut up, basically.
Yeah.
If you
That's, I think where I've got the
hot cue
is
marker.
where there's no talking.
So you know in Recordbox, if you need to, and it's becoming really problematic, you can set like a loop in Recordbox. So the instant it hits the quiet bit, where there's no vocal, it instantly loops it for you.
Yeah,
it's called an auto loop.
Auto loop, yeah. Kieran did tell me that, but I ended up turning them off because then
It becomes a
I
nightmare.
played in a club and I didn't want to use them. I'm like, it's been going fucking ages. Oh my god!
Yep, this is the thing, is that sort of stuff happens, and this is about set prep though.
Yeah.
So when you're doing this stuff, you want to just have a think about it and make sure you're good.
Yeah.
So what we'll do now quickly is we're going to do exactly the same, but I just want you to do just the direct cuts this time. Yeah? So if I, so again, four finger, that's not your four finger, is that your index?
That's your rude finger.
Yeah, so that'll do. The root finger and thumb, basically, there we go.
So there's index finger, your wedding ring finger, your pinky, what is that?
Yeah, it's
It's your rude finger.
that's the one. Okay, that's it. So a bit more like this up. You got the 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. You need a 4, 1, 2, 3, 4 up. 1, 2, 3, 4. can just leave it,
Yeah.
and it's done. That's the mix.
Yeah.
And this way we don't have to worry about any EQs.
The two songs that I have practiced on before that sort of click like
Yeah.
perfectly, so I put them on.
Yeah, we can give it a go. So what was the other one?
So I can't remember what it's called. They should be next to each other. One is oh here they are. So it's Alchemist and Cameron Crooked. That must be further down.
Well, I've got Alchemist on this side for you.
Oh, cool. Alright, can I just type it in?
Yeah.
And then yours should, oh no, the Alchemist, us.
Sorry, wasn't going to listen there. Oh, the third one. Right, so and these two, you said what?
These two are the two that I always do together, they sound really good.
In this track is where the vocals don't sit on the bar properly. So where you've got like a 1, 2, 3, 4, you'll find a vocalist will come in like a beat early or something like that. And when you're cutting, unless you know the track really well, you chop the vocals and you get like half a word or something. You're like, that sounds wrong.
Yeah.
So with these sort of tricks, you really do have to know the tracks inside out, essentially.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just to bring in.
Just watching you do that, that is very good.
Does it make sense?
I haven't seen people do that.
And now you're like,
I never go to kick on, so I never learn. That's where most people learn how to do.
But one of the things I want to show you. So you've covered like these beat effects here, haven't you?
Yeah. So the main one I'm using is like the flange effect. Will put that on, like say over like 64 and just put it over.
Just leave it and let it run.
The other one I like. So my decks don't have all these, but if it's like a long sort of like ambient part and everyone's just like, then you just use like reverb or echo.
Yeah.
I have not done pinhole. I have spiral. I have helix. I have not done shimmer. I have not done.
So I wouldn't worry too much about them. The one I want to show you again is the echo.
Yeah.
But with the cut. Because when you echo. So what we can do is if we've got a build up like this and a drop into C coming, yeah? Literally just cut for 4 beats. It's a bit like doing this, I'm not going to lie. All I do is I build the echo up, so while the track's playing, build the echo up, yeah, on a half beat.
On a half.
Yeah, in the build up. Then what I'm going to do is cut that for the 4 beats before the drop. You know usually where there's the vocal.
Okay, so have echo on.
So yeah, build the echo up.
On half. I will do this in my YouTube tutorial. So echo on half, and then during the build,
Yeah, add level depth.
add level depth.
Yep. Then for the last 4 beats, you're just going to cut the volume.
Cut the volume because then it will go la 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 la.
Yeah. And then on the drop, exactly on the drop, you've got to bring the volume fader back up. And at the same time you bring the volume fader back up, you've got to turn the level depth to minimum.
Oh, I can't just press that.
No, because if you press the on-off button, the echo tail still happens.
Oh,
So it's going to mess with the like I'll show you because you'll hear it on the drop and it sounds really weird. It's like whereas if you up then it like snaps it back
so
in.
long people don't look around, but you go like this, but then nothing happens.
Exactly, that's it. So the level depth to 0 and you get
So
the really tight
you're
finish.
saying to the last 4 beats, cut
The volume fader.
cut the volume fader, and then
On the drop, it's the volume has to go back up, the fader has to go back up and the level depth to minimum.
so drop the level fader up, and that up, and then that
level
down.
depth down, yeah, that's it.
And level depth for the echo down.
Yeah, it's a really nice little trick. It's quite simple and it works.
This would be good for drum and bass.
It is specifically good for drum and bass. So the reason this trick is actually based off of like an old dub reggae trick, which is obviously where a lot of drum and bass comes from, is they use like the old echoes because they couldn't beat match half the songs, so they would echo one out
Yeah.
and then start another one. And this trick can actually be used if you've got like a song that's just not on BPM. So say for example, I'll play this anyway, but I'm going to just use a different cue point. Yeah, so on the drop.
Yeah.
So if I use Alright, exactly
I
that.
like to play like totally different genres.
This is a genre trick, yeah.
I've been told off by a promoter they've come up super home and you might just play
That's
bass.
alright.
They're playing more trap.
I play acid house as my general rhythm, but I also play punk music, like actual hardcore punk
Yeah.
in my sets. So using transitions and stuff to work your way through.
That
is
would be
helpful.
cool. That would actually be very cool. Like have some like just little snippets. I've done that a little bit with like older people music, like Pantera and stuff. Like there's a few hooks that I love.
You can do it. Actually, there's I don't have my phone with me. I'll show you the track in a minute. But there you've got the Pendulum remix of Prodigy.
Yeah, very people.
Yeah. There is a cover of that by a Norwegian, like hardcore punk, a Swedish hardcore punk band called Refused, and it literally same tempo, sounds the same, and it's immaculate.
No.
And you can literally cut between the two.
You need to send me this.
I'll show you in a minute. It's called Refused, and it's called Voodoo People. I think it was on one of their EP things. But there is-
Refuse, you said.
Yeah, but there is actually kind of like with drum and bass, there is obviously like a combination towards rock and back to
Well, a
drum
lot
and
of them
bass.
started in the heavy metal scene in Perth. Because Pendulum are from where I live, they went to my school.
Yeah.
But Paul's just an angry old man now.
but then
So yeah,
there is a lot of this. So a lot of those guys work.
And you would use this cutting technique you're saying for doing a skill like that.
Yeah, for transitioning. The other one we can use, by the way, and this is a really simple one I'm just going to show you. So on these CDJs, it's a bit different to the other ones because you'll notice the other ones have a touch break and release, but this one sets the break. So we can do it with this. But it's a really simple trick.
Are you talking about these?
Yeah, this one here, and I'm just going to have it turned all the way up. That's it. Yeah? So when I'm playing a track, actually I'm going to do it on this one, just that bit.
Oh, this is so that it goes, and then this one, if you do it, it just stops and goes.
Yeah,
Oh.
what we can do. Just on the play button. So any track you just with a drop, you can literally just hit play, basically.
You just
And
need
then-
to make sure that that thing is on vinyl, slow down.
yeah, otherwise you get that weird like that. If it's on CD mode, so make sure it's on vinyl mode.
Is that what that is?
Yes.
Oh.
Any effect here, but you just literally, once it's set, you just use the play button.
And then you also use the high pass filter.
Yeah, just bring it up a little bit. Same way you would for all those sort of drops.
Play for the drop. So these are all very good ones for me to try. Some doing some.
This is why I'm trying to go through stuff today, like it's going to be stuff that's like, it's not really overly complicated, but it just works. This isn't stuff I would use in every mix,
Yeah.
but it's stuff that can help in problematic circumstances. Yeah. It's the same as like Buster was going through like the loops, loop rolls with you yesterday, yeah?
Yeah, where you go slow it down, slow it down, slow it down, like just, and then filter it out.
Did
like,
you cover
do it
the...
8 and then do it to 4 and do it to
Yeah. So did he cover it into the hot cues?
Show me what you mean.
So, I'm going to use that vinyl track again. So I used the vinyl cutback you covered yesterday.
Yeah. And
Then I hit the pause button to create the vinyl slow. And obviously that calls you to a stop. And then I dropped in a hot key.
And then use the hot cue to go straight to the break.
So I actually, just so you know, when I do this, if I was going to do this myself, I would actually have the hot cue set here. Here. There.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to put F in there for me for now. Because that's going to give me... It gives you that bit more, like, the crowd can get much back on board with the fact it's going to start again, rather than if you just drop straight on the drop, they'll be like, oh god.
Yeah.
So that way you give them a second to prepare that it's happening.
When I'm playing, I'll try and do tricks like that. I'll be very ambitious, and then sometimes it sounds great, and other
So
I'll just start laughing.
one thing that I always get asked by a lot of people when they come in here is everyone sort of says to me like, oh, how many of these tricks do you actually do when you play out? And I sort of say, well, it kind of varies, to be honest, on what sort of mood I'm in. But as I said earlier, like the most important thing is what comes out of the speakers, not what you're doing with your hands. It's like, it's great to be able to do these tricks, but being really honest and upfront with you, how many times have you walked out of a venue and been speaking about some trick a DJ did compared to walking out of a venue and talking about how good the music was?
Yeah, I do notice though, like with drum and bass, I suppose, because most of them in Perth they're men. So it's like they're more aggressively mixing. Whereas then when you walk up, you're like more feminine or whatever, and it's still like la la la. And so I feel like, especially for this genre, it would be more be like.
This is why I want to go through this with you, because you can adapt this. But I also, like, from my perspective, I don't think having like a feminine take on this is a bad thing in any way whatsoever.
Yeah.
And I definitely don't think that just because they are all men doing it, that you have to like,
Be that way.
yeah, try and play their game with them. Do it
Yeah,
your
no.
way. You don't have to do that.
I
at all.
take unicorns to my gigs, like I ride on.
That's exactly the way to
And
do it.
people come and I just like have a photo on the unicorn.
But that's exactly it. It's like don't
You
do all
should
this
ask
stuff.
our
You don't
friend
have to.
Thomas here. Thomas, what did I have at Ministry of Sound?
I was a
6 foot
kangaroo.
I had an inflatable kangaroo, so I bring my inflatable toys. We love it.
Amazing. But yeah, you don't have to worry about like just because they do this, you don't have to feel that like that's the way it has to be done. It's like
Yeah.
that's not the way the world
But
works.
still
at all.
learn them anyway, yeah.
Also, maybe at the same time, it's like actually, well, okay, so I'll give you a really simple, like, and like fundamental example for men saying something should be done one way and it not being true. So, drum and bass started, was created from jungle when Goldie was sat in a studio working with an engineer, and he turned around and said, "What's that machine?" And it was also an ultra harmonizer.
Yeah.
And the guy was like, "Oh, it's for guitars." And he went, "What happens if we run a breakbeat through it?" And he went, "You don't. It's for guitars." And he was like, "Okay, well, I want to run a breakbeat through it."
Yeah.
And that was drum and bass. So without that thing of
It's
someone
been
going, "This is the
disputed,
way it
but
should be
yes, that's what
done."
I believe too. The Godfather.
Well, that was
And
Terminator, which is the generally consensusly known as the original drum and bass tune.
So it was a guitar thing, and then that's how. So you ran it through that.
He ran his drum breaks through there, and it's what pitched them up,
Wow.
essentially. Yeah.
That's so cool.
So, but it is one of those ideas that,
Yeah.
yeah, don't feel that because someone else is doing something or there's a way to do it, that
Yeah.
that's the way you have to do it.
Yeah.
Because otherwise everything gets stale and boring. And I'm sure you go to some of those drum and bass events and go, "I've heard this
Yes.
said 1,000 times, and
Yeah,
I
and
don't
it's
want to hear it
I
again."
have had people tell me, like, I sent my mix in a group chat to all my like male other producer friends, and they responded with like a homophobic slur, and I was like, well, you know what, like, you might think that about my mix, but I was like, there are enough angry middle-aged white men DJs, whereas like there are no females, you know.
Yeah, don't, like, honestly, do not position yourself. And like you sort of said about earlier that there was a thing about like the whole like, oh, you can't mix and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I know a lot of female DJs who've gone through a lot of like, and even like photographers at events and stuff have gone through a lot of horrible things. And like, I mean, it's why Resident Advisor shut down the comment section on things, because it got so out, so did Mixmax, it was so out of hand. But it doesn't, that actually doesn't mean that it's bad, it just means that there's some poor guy out there who's really upset with his life. Like, it doesn't actually mean that what you're doing is problematic, but that's always something that I would definitely like to say. Always remember that whatever gets said about it, like don't panic.
My other question would be like, because do you use a microphone at all in your DJing or?
I do not, no. But
So
there is a specific reason for that, and it's because I sound like an idiot when I talk.
I challenge you to introduce yourself at
So
your show.
I actually do vocals on all my own records,
Oh.
but I use a weird vocal pedal to do stuff.
What is it?
It is a TC Helicon Voice Live 3. I'll get a laptop in a second. I'll show you some of the stuff.
See,
I'm talking.
Helicon.
Voice Live 3 Extreme, and it's just a pedal, and I can do like harmonies, reverbs, all sorts of stuff with it.
Could you plug it into your mixer?
Yep,
You
no
should
problems
use
at all.
it. You can use it live.
Well, no, because I also do a live. I do a live band version of what I do, so
Oh,
I
yeah.
have to differentiate between the two.
Oh, otherwise it'd just be like that.
It's kind of the halfway house. Yeah. So, I mean, if you're using a microphone with this mixer, the main thing, and actually, the main thing you've got to remember is that like you do have a low and a high EQ,
Yeah.
and you always want to make sure that you're only using a dynamic microphone. I would personally suggest a Shure SM58.
I think that's what I have.
It's just like a little black one with like a grey. We've got one here somewhere, I think, actually. There is that. I mean, just so you know, the pedal I was talking about, it's used by people like Grimes. That's how she does all her weird, messed up vocals. That's that.
Well, Snoop Dogg was on Joe Rogan the other day and he took his own microphone in and he was like just randomly talking and I was like, where did you get And like just you can plug it in anywhere, and it was like I don't know if it was cordless or whatever, but he had it all blinked up. But you could just take your own microphone in and have your effects in your rig.
Yeah, you can do that. Oh no, he's running that through our board. But you just run it in the back of here, turn the mic on there, then you've got your volume.
So it's not like a physical microphone I could buy where all that
pre-built
is in there.
effects. No, let me get a laptop. I'm going to show you this quickly
Right.
because I think it's like if we talked about this, it's important to show you what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
I think your pictures of ministry are ready. Yeah, I just need to transfer them.
Ah, so
They're
excited.
good, man.
Thank you so much for coming in the middle of the night. Honestly, I felt so bad dragging you out. That was fun though, hey? So you're saying you don't like to introduce yourself when you're DJing then? And you're playing the house?
Acid, yeah, acid.
Acid.
Right, TC, on, voice, slide, yeah, this thing. Yeah. And there's a vocal effects pedal.
Oh, you plug your microphone into that?
Into that, and then that comes out into where I want it to go to afterwards. Yeah. But you, vocal effects, by the way, TC had found a really good company for this. A lot of like really big vocalists use TC Helicon stuff because I mean you can do something like auto tune, but you can do a lot more like drastic weird things. Yeah. So yeah, it's
That's
like
nice to me because I taught boys like to introduce hello, you know, it's my favourite song.
honestly, like, how long are you around here for?
For 3 weeks.
Have you got when's your next session?
Every day.
Right, tomorrow I'll bring in mine. Yeah, we've got the mics here, I can bring mine in. And you can have a play
Because I'm doing a live stream after my class, maybe I could do it.
It's no problem, we can set it up for you and get it working, that's dead easy. No worries at all, we can do that. There you go. But then you can see, they're not cheap by the way, but they sound
okay,
like, yeah,
I'm
exactly
doing
right.
weddings, so even though I'm not like a rock star DJ, I make shitloads of money doing weddings, which is why
That would actually be really good for
weddings.
Yeah, because
You're about to do the bride.
But no, it's got like echoes, reverbs and stuff like that, and you can do things where it does like it sounds much cleaner than just a mic into a mixer sort of thing. So I can do that with you. I'll bring one in for you to have a look at. What was the other thing I was saying about? It was refused and it's voodoo people. This was the one I was talking about.
I'll make a video of those three tricks and send it to you when you should
Where's that?
I think I've heard
Yeah.
this.
Yeah, so that way, and it's just.
Imagine a drum roll.
He's incredible actually.
Oh my God.
But everything they play is that fast anyway, so it's just
Have you seen Pendulum do their live shows?
I have done, yes.
So good.
So if you're into like guys who play drums really well, there is an active mix help. And if you look for the mix help drum finale, so I mean, well, it's more of a house record this one, but so they have I think about 12 drums on stage for this.
Yeah.
So the main drummer. So yeah, he's the guy from Mix House, him and his wife. This is Igor and Lima. Igor used to be, he was a family member drummer for Sepultura.
No way, that dude.
Yeah.
Look
Yeah,
at
there's
it
now like we now there's a Cavalier conspiracy with his brother as well, which is like another massive metal band now. But yeah, but there is always that sort of combination between sort of like.
If you think of anything that's related to any, because you obviously can see the style I'm into, any songs that you think of, just send me the links, I can play with them.
So I think with this, like I think a lot of older, like based on a lot of the stuff here, like a lot of the older jungle stuff is super well. Even some of the older rave records as well.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of that stuff that's like getting really big at this. And there was some of this on this. It's generally around sort of 160s.
Oh, okay.
Not like the classic 174, 175 like standardization.
Yeah.
But there's some good stuff. I mean, the one like the producer I was going to go against drum is Dillinger.
Dillinger's my favourite. I named a tree after Dillinger. I literally sent it to
His
him.
production is always like way up there,
He's
as
a
like
kid.
beyond anybody else in that. Like,
That's so funny.
Right, mate.
Hello.
What's the bike then?
What?
Oh, wine rush.
Yeah.
Wine rush.
Records upstairs are dusty.
We don't have like a microphone pot.
Nice shirt, bro.
I hate
Rushes.
rushes.
We're trying to like coordinate.
It looks very good.
You're standing
I
on the
respect
bars. Yeah, so I think like maybe some old rave stuff to bring in, because I mean, obviously that's kind of made a massive comeback.
Yeah. And then there's also, it's kind of like all over the place right here, because like Lady Gaga and Kira drum and bass, and then like I love as well dubstep. But yeah, you can see like
When you say dubstep,
like all commercial stuff, like I love TC. So the one trick that Buster showed me was like doing the beat sync and then you know
Yeah.
where you do
Fading,
like, tempi.
yeah.
And yeah, I did try that at a club, it didn't work, so I just like didn't do it.
that does happen sometimes. Yeah, with
But I made a YouTube video like I can do it on my thing at home, but I can't just
yeah. So one thing to be wary of with all these tricks we've covered is just that you want to make sure that like yeah. So there's one thing I do want to talk to you about. Actually. Give me a second. I'm going to get a bit of paper because I'm going to write this down because it makes more sense.
all the disco balls from Buster's house.
When did you go back?
On the 25th. Just remembered I was videoing that still.
Here we go.